Today we are going to be going over 5 questions that you're going to ask probably your real estate agent, but you should be asking your mortgage lender. What's going on, guys? It is Peyton Fisher, and on this channel we talk all things residential, commercial, and general construction when it comes to the real estate world. So today I brought in one of the most leading experts, Aubrie here. She's gonna answer these questions for us. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay, so the first question that we are gonna go over today is, Aubrie, do I have to have good credit to buy a home?
Yes, depending on what good credit is. Sometimes people think their credit's not that great, but it might be better than they think. So generally, a good credit score would be 620 plus to kind of help to see what kind of loan programs are available for them.
And how do they get a 620, or what is a 620?
A 620 credit score, so there's 3 credit bureaus that we look at: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
Okay.
And so out of those 3 scores, we go off of the mid score. So a 620 will just be whichever bureau has that credit score, essentially. And people can work on that based on different credit lines or that they have on their credit. For us to kind of help figure out where your credit's at, we do a hard inquiry, which pulls from all 3 credit bureaus, and then we can help them assess where they're at.
So when you say hard inquiry, that's scary. Like, is that going to hurt my credit? Is that going to show up forever?
That's a great question. So a hard inquiry does mean we do pull from all 3 credit bureaus, versus if they hear a soft pull. A soft pull, they're only looking at one credit line, essentially like Equifax or TransUnion. So when they look at their credit scores on credit cards, that's just a soft pull, versus we have to look at all 3. It may affect your credit scores a little bit. We don't really know the percentage or the points, but it will just help us to figure out where you're at, essentially.
Okay, so say the clients, they want to come in and they want to buy a house right now. They get a hard pull, but then they couldn't find a house right now. So in 2 months, do you have to do another hard pull, or do you do a soft pull?
So at that point, our credit reports are usually good for about 4 months. And so once they're pre-approved, or if they're still working on credit, we can assess where they're at. Sometimes I have clients work on, credit with a credit specialist, if that helps. And when their credit scores are higher or where it needs to be, then we do a credit check at that point.
So do you have a credit specialist that you can recommend to somebody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We do have a great credit specialist here locally that we usually will recommend.
So that's here locally in Utah. Do you guys have somebody that can work anywhere nationwide?
We do as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So we'll go ahead and put a link down there. Okay, so let's talk the next question. So I get asked this all the time. Do I have to have a 2-year work history? Now this is a double question. Mm-hmm. I want you to answer 1 for the person who has a W-2, and 2nd for the self-employed person who doesn't have a W-2. Now I know that's a tricky can of worms that we'll break into, but let's go the first with the W-2 employee.
Okay, so W-2 employee, yes. Guidelines on all loan programs do want to see a 2-year work history. And the reason of that is just to show stability, that yes, you are working, you're making income, which is great. So you can be able to make your mortgage payment. W-2 is easier to paper trail, if you will. So we usually will get your W-2s from your employer or employers, depending on, if you've had 2 job changes in 1 year or however long it's been.
Okay, so that's nice for the person that lives here in Utah, but what about we're growing so fast, and I have people call me from California, Washington, Oregon, and they want to move here, but they don't have that work history. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
So it depends on where this might kind of get with self-employed a little bit. But I mean, if you are working in California and you have a W-2 job there and you move to Utah, that's totally fine. We can still make that work. We just either need to show that you are working remotely at your same company that's in California, or if you decide to get a new job here in Utah, then we just need to get an offer letter showing that you are having a job here in Utah, because this will be your new primary residence. Okay, and so so if they're a nurse in California and they want to be a nurse here, mm-hmm. and they have that letter that says, hey, IHC is going to give them a letter or a employment for X dollars, mm-hmm. then as long as they still have that 2 years there, mm-hmm. it's more beneficial. Exactly, yeah. So your 2-year work history, you could be at Arby's and then, being an office manager, and then you switch something else, that's totally fine. That's still considered your 2-year work history. If you have a gap of employment at any point, we just need to, document you were trying to find a job, or COVID happened, since that's been a big thing we've seen this year, or, over the past year. So we kind of just work through it with you, but as long as we can document a 2-year work history, we should be fine.
Okay, perfect. So when it comes to the new can of worms of self-employment, let's just touch basis on there. Say they've only been in business 18 months and they only have 1 year of tax returns. How do you transition that into getting a loan?
Generally, the rule of thumb is the guidelines, when I say they want to see at least a 2-year work history, and that just because self-employed income can fluctuate a lot, where 1 month is really good, another month might be slower, that type of thing. So general rule of thumb is 2 years. However, let's say you were a painter, right? You were working for a construction company and you were just the main painter, and then you went off and did your own business. Because you have that work history, and as long as we can document a W-2 that yes, you were a painter for ABC Construction, and then you went off and did your own job, then we can look into getting exceptions of using just 1 year of taxes since you're in that same industry. But if you went from, let's say, being a nurse and then you went to do your own self-employed to be a painter, it's a big 2 different industry change, right?
Nurses can be painters.
So, I mean, I know that's very 2 opposite extremes, but if you went into a completely different industry, definitely they would want to see a 2-year work history because you're having to establish clientele and all that stuff.
Okay, definitely. No, that's awesome. Okay, so let's jump into number 3, is how much do I have to have for my down payment?
Great question. So especially in Utah, there are some options for no money down programs. Obviously, there's a lot of things we check, which is, do I meet the income limit? Do I meet the credit score limit? Those types of things. But you don't necessarily have to have a down payment. Definitely having a down payment makes it a little bit easier, depending on guidelines and things like that. And can kind of help lower your payment as well if you're able to put money down.
Okay, and so I know there's 2 different types. There's the conventional, this is the government, or the non-government, and then there's the FHA, the first-time home buyers. Is there really a difference with that? Now, I know that's not the exact question, but just touch basis on that.
Yeah.
So that way they understand.
So a lot of first-time home buyers will look at FHA, which is a minimum of 3.5% down. There's a lot of different reasons why somebody may do an FHA loan, which we can help and assess and figure out that for them. Conventional will allow for as low as 3 to 5% down, depending on credit and income limits and things like that.
Okay, perfect. And we'll do another video on FHA versus conventional in just a bit. All right, let's jump to the next one. What is debt to income ratio and how does it work when buying a house?
Great question. Debt to income ratio, or if you hear someone say DTI, that's the same thing. So debt to income ratio is where we take everything on your credit report. So if you have any credit card payments, auto loans, installment loans, and then we add what the estimated mortgage payment would be based on what you're trying to qualify for. So that's considered all of your debts.
Okay, so I have a question then. So if somebody has student loans and they're deferred right now, how does that play on the debt to income?
That's a great question. So we do have to anticipate some sort of payment depending on which guidelines and which program we go with. So FHA has different guidelines than conventional or in USDA and VA. So depending on which loan program, that's how we will calculate the estimated monthly payment we have to factor into the debt to income ratio.
Okay, and what is a good debt to income ratio?
So a good debt to income ratio would roughly be about maybe 45%, and that's more for a conventional loan. But again, all the guidelines have different debt to income ratio requirements.
Okay.
But anyways, to get back to how we calculate the debt to income ratio, so again, we take all those debts plus the mortgage payment and we divide it by the income. So that's how we get that calculation.
If you divide that by the gross income or divide that by the net income?
Great question. Gross income.
The gross income. So that's pre-taxed money. So if you make $60,000 a year, that's $5,000 a month. So you'll take that $5,000 on the gross income. Okay.
Yep.
So if you guys have more questions like this, please go ahead, put the questions in the comments below. We want to make sure and get those answered, whether I answer it, whether Aubrie answers that, or whether we bring another expert. We're here to help take care of your questions in the buying, selling, and investing in real estate. Thank you guys so much, and have a good day.
See ya.